caught again. It's got a massive hit. It's one of the biggest hits we've seen at the Melbourne Cricket Ground this summer.
The Melbourne Cricket Ground, the traditional home of Australian cricket. One of the biggest grounds in the world, it was a fitting backdrop for a legendary event in world cricket. A day when a New Zealand batsman ripped the Aussie bowling apart.
He's got hold of it. It's a big one. It races out over the square leg fence. What a magnificent hit.
Backs off again and thrashes that one. And that's clear. Graham Woods headed it off. There's the sixth one.
Today, the man behind the legend plays most of his cricket here in Gisborne, a far cry from the MCG. For Lance Cairns, it's what he likes best, playing cricket for pure enjoyment. And enjoy it he does. A practice session with clubmates in the nets shows the punishment opposing bowlers receive in the Gisborne Club competition. The Lance Cairns magic is still there. It's a magic that captured the imagination of all New Zealanders, cricket lovers or not, and gave heart to those who dreamt of one day playing for New Zealand.
Really, he was just what you would call our first All Black for cricket. Everybody had the dream that they could be like Lance Cairns because it looked realistic, because it looked natural.
Lance Cairns was a naturally talented sportsman. He excelled at hockey, representing Marlborough at a young age, and may well have become a true All Black, save for his dislike of the rough stuff on the rugby field.
I had a couple of trials. I played some trial matches for the Marlborough Colts and whatever. So maybe there's a bit of flair, there's a bit of talent there, but I wasn't a fan for this on the bottom of rucks and that sort of stuff. No, even though I had a little bit of size, I wasn't sort of happy to get in there and mix it in the bottom of rucks.
It was cricket that had that something special which attracted the young Lance Cairns. It was a fascination which drew him to a nearby park nearly every day.
The cricket park where I play was just down the road from home, so I didn't mind going down there all the time. And whenever the senior guys were down there, the men were down there, I was 10 or 11, I was quite happy to chase the ball for them, throw it back, and at the end of the practice they'd let me have a little bowl and let me have a bat, sort of thing, you know, and I just loved that.
Today, there's another young Cairns in the nets, getting help and advice.
That's all it is there, right? That's all you need to do.
He looks like his dad at a similar age, and 20-year-old Chris Cairns is determined to follow in his father's footsteps.
Right, close yourself right off.
Chris has already played for New Zealand in a test and wants to secure a full-time place in the team.
That there, although they didn't go the outswing, it was still the pace, everything was there. Coordination was there. Right, so then, to me, it must be that you're not closing yourself off and up in there, right?
And I just open up.
But unlike his father, who scorned coaching, Chris is striving for perfection.
I try to do things correct and maybe go by the book more than what Dad did. Dad had his own game, I think, and he just played it that way.
Cricket to me is just the game that I used to love listening to it on the radio when I was younger and watching it on TV. I went to very few games, you know, because living in Picton, and I didn't see any matches at Lancaster Park or at the Basin or whatever until I'd really played in those matches.
That's almost at the airport.
Lance Cairns has always played the same way. From the earliest of ages, he can remember being able to put bat to ball with the greatest of ease. And the only philosophy involved was the fact that a cricket ball just seemed to be there for one purpose, to be hit as hard and as far as possible.
As a kid at school, I was fairly big, and I had the strength to hit the ball, sort of thing. And these guys, the kids at school, you know, the school cricket, probably a little bit slow bowling, a little bit more rubbish, and you can't get onto it, sort of thing. But once again, maybe it comes back to your eye-hand coordination thing. And I think, you know, I had something in there that let me pick the ball up off a little bit different length to what other guys can do. And I found it quite easy to hit a good length ball, to pick it up and hit it.
Did you ever manage to analyse what it was about that style that allowed you to do that?
No, all my cricket was just go out there and be natural. I didn't try and work out how things happen, why they happen, or whatever. It just, if the ball was in a certain spot, I'd have a go at it.
Both of them to Cairns. Dance down the wicket, Randall's underneath this one, but it's over at the top of him. That's 6.
New Zealand and the cricketing public were soon to benefit from the simple Lance Cairns philosophy.
Cairns Cairns to Lamb. And that's a good, oh, brilliant catch.
His skill with the bat makes it easy to forget that it was bowling that put Lance Cairns on the road to cricketing stardom. Like his batting, his bowling style developed naturally. No one ever taught him proper technique, but he always had the knack to get batsmen out.
From a real early age, I had the ability to really swerve the ball, to really swing it. And it's a thing that was never taken away from me. I think mainly because, once again, luckily being in the smaller centre, I didn't really come across coaching. I was very open-chested when I bowled, and to me, the coach book or the textbook stuff is that you have to be side on, all that sort of jazz and whatever. And, you know, I wouldn't have swung the ball if I'd tried to do that.
And so the young Cairns found himself attracting the eye of the selectors. He was soon picked for Marlborough. The name Cairns began to be noticed, and the headlines began to appear. Yet even at this stage, Cairns was unaware he had something special to offer cricket, something that may one day lead him to represent his country at the sport he loved.
I've always had sort of doubts of my own ability, that I could, that I was that good that I could play at the level I've played at. It's a thing that when you look back, or well, I can look back at my career and say, you know, how the hell did I play all those test matches? Or, you know, how did I take so many wickets at the test level? Because to me, I'm a pretty dribbly bowler, as opposed to these guys that come in and bowl 100 miles an hour now. And from that point of view, that's how I felt when I was younger as well. I didn't feel I had anything special or anything different to other guys. Right, I moved the ball a little bit in the air, I did those sort of things, but I didn't think I had any special talent.
But special talent he had, and Cairns was selected to play for Central Districts. The Cairns cricketing philosophy fitted in well with that of the team.
We only met up sort of once a year, and when we met up, cricket was secondary. We didn't worry too much about the cricket. And those early days for Central Districts, it was a good layer up at the end of the day's play that we look forward to more, I think, than the cricket side of it, which you can't do these days.
Cairns was selected for the New Zealand team in its tour of Australia at the end of 1973, despite that casual attitude to representative play. If the Cairns selection was a surprise to the pundits, it came as a shock to the man himself.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't understand why the hell they had picked me.
Did you feel up to it?
Not really, no. It's the thing that when you have a look at these other guys that have played and were playing, and then I'm up there in the top 12 or 14 or something in the country. It's just, you know, I couldn't believe it really, and I couldn't understand it. Couldn't understand why.
Symbolically, the Melbourne Cricket Ground was where Lance Cairns first played for New Zealand. This time too, there was success. But for a small-town boy, that first trip overseas was all a bit much.
I hadn't experienced anything, been anywhere. I've worked in the freezer works in Picton for about 10 years, 8 years or something. Then I'm off overseas sort of thing and playing for New Zealand in the cricket team.
It's been said that you'd never worn a tie till that.
Well, I have.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's right, because, well, I got to Christchurch to fly out, and I couldn't tie, and we had to wear our blazer and all this sort of mocker and whatever, and I didn't have a clue what to do, so I went out to my sister-in-law, whose husband was in the Air Force, and Lynette sort of had to show me how to do it, and she tied it for me, and for about 4 weeks I tried to sort of just undo it a little bit and slip it over my head and put it back on that way, and...
With his tie sorted out, Lance was ready to venture out for a feed, but there were more surprises in store.
Our manager was Bob Vance, and I can remember him taking us out for dinner one night. I was about 5 or 6 of us, and to a Chinese restaurant, and I'd never been to one in my life. And they came out with this menu, all this Chinese stuff and whatever. I said, I'm not eating that stuff. So I ordered a steak and eggs in this Chinese restaurant, and Bob Vance never forgiven me for that to this day.
Lance had more than social graces to come to terms with on tour. He discovered he was at the bottom of a cricketing hierarchy. He didn't enjoy the experience and didn't continue it when he became a senior player.
The old hands had their school, and the new boys were, you know, you're out on your own sort of thing, and you had to fend for yourself, and I hated that. I really, my first trip to Australia, I can remember at Christmas time, I was real lonely, homesick, and the older hands just, they couldn't give a stuff about what you were doing.
In my first test, we lost it in 3 days. And he grabbed me by the scruff of the neck, and I was a bit of a sulky sort of a kid at the time. Didn't like losing, still don't. And he said, come on, we've had a hammering here. Let's go and drink some beers with the boys. And we went in, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning when we got out of the Australian dressing room. after being humiliated in 3 days, we sort of sat down there and he whacked me between guys like Marsh and Lilly and guys like that, and it was a great, great experience. And I don't think anybody else would have done that for the younger guys in the team. It's perhaps no big deal to other people, but it was a big, big deal for me because he dragged me in to sit with guys who'd actually be my schoolboy heroes.
28 for 2, the West Indies. Full, and he's played it on.
Lance Cairns, the bowler, was making a name for himself. He was now appearing on television. Suddenly, for the first time, he could see what he looked like on the field.
I saw myself on film for the first time when I was about 23. And I thought, hell, what a bloody mess when I saw myself bowling. And I couldn't believe it because I went through that whole time that I just bowled normally like anybody else with a proper action and everything. And when I saw this tangle, I thought, oh no, that's not me.
He bowled off the wrong foot. He had a reasonably awkward action. I mean, if you tried to do it yourself, you'd probably fall over in the middle of the wicket. So, I mean, Lance Cairns was Lance Cairns, but very effective.
Effective indeed, and his record at Test level proves it.
And he's bowled him. 6 wickets for Cairns. What a field day he's having.
Cairns is second only to Sir Richard Hadley as New Zealand's greatest taker of Test wickets.
He's hoisted that away to a long leg. Is it going to be taken? Yeah, very safely pouched, and that is 7 wickets for Lance Cairns, and England all out for 225. And a personal triumph down there for Lance Cairns.
That was the best ever bowling performance by Cairns and helped New Zealand to its first ever win over England in 1983.
Down the wicket, Truman, and he's caught and bowled.
Despite his Test successes with the ball, it's his exploits with the bat that will always endear Lance Cairns to the New Zealand public. And it was 3 years before Melbourne that he showed against the West Indies what lay ahead.
Parry come on to bowl, off spinner. They had about 4 fast bowlers in this off spinner. When I went out there to bat, he came on. So I carded him once, put him over the stand.
Whack. That's 6.
Hadley come down from the other and said, just milk him, just take it easy. And 2 balls later, I put another one over the stand.
Derek Barry taking a bit of stick in his time in New Zealand. He's gone for it again. That's 6 more.
Hadley was just getting a little bit agitated. Said, come on, just got to milk him, just got to use him. But I knew myself that a new ball was coming on, and I wasn't going to stick around too much longer. I knew that against a new ball, so Parry sent another one down, put another one over the stand.
He has another go. Oh, dear, oh, dear.
Overall, that Test match that we got up and won it with the last 2 in there, and I know you got the feeling that the whole country sort of stopped, and everybody's listening to the battle, you know, and those sort of games sort of give you a real special thing, that you know that everybody's sort of going for you, the whole country's sort of rooting for you, and when you pull it off, it's tremendous.
For national pride and fervour, though, it was the advent of one-day cricket which was to set the nation alight. This was how legends were made. The razzmatazz and excitement stirred by thousands in the stands was perfect for a flamboyant tail-ender.
I was lucky enough that I could hit the ball, and it suited one-day cricket at the finish, whereby you just had to go for quick runs. And I was in the situation, I come in 8, 9, 10, maybe I'd be moved up the order a bit, but just with the sole instruction to go out there and have a go.
He's still going at it, and that's an enormous hit.
One day he was superb. I think the game was made for Lance Cairns.
It's sort of the legend thing. I can't sort of relate to that anyway, because I don't think I am different or special or whatever. And to say that because of one incident, you're sort of chucked up there, you're some sort of hero or whatever. And to me, it's a thing that I played the game that I really love to play. And one thing like that in Melbourne changes everything. And to me, it was all right. It was a feat, but I can't understand really why such a huge fuss was made of it.
Yet fuss there was. Lance Cairns was to become a cricket superstar, despite the fact the Aussies already had the match sewn up.
It was crazy, really, when you see one incident like that. We were getting beaten so badly, and I didn't really get a lot of pride myself out of the performance because of what happened. We've been stuffed completely by Australia. Yet, something I think happened at home here, because I'd hit the ball over the fence a few times and got a quick 50, it sort of took the onus of the loss, took that part away from New Zealand. And so, something else happened that they could switch on to. And, from that point of view, it's a crazy situation, really.
To hit a 6 at the Melbourne Cricket Ground is a feat in itself. To slam 6 balls into the stands in such quick time was regarded as superhuman. For the batsman at the other end, it was a spectacle to behold.
Obviously the game was almost lost at that stage, but for him to come out and hit those sixes was tremendous experience. And you know, I went down the wicket and spoke to him and asked him what he was doing. I don't think he knew, but you know, the ball was in the right place. He had the big bat and he was hitting it pretty hard.
When one-handed, I mean, it's just one of those days that the ball was coming straight at my toes. I was just trying to get out of the road, and I just swung the bat, and it went for 6 runs, sort of thing, you know, and just one big fluke.
Cairns there hitting it with only one hand. And in spite of the fact he hits it with one hand, it still goes over the longest boundary at the MCG for 6.
Dennis shouted down the pitch at him, if you're going to play like a fool, I'm going to bowl like one. And he bowled him a leg break next ball, and Lance smashed that out of the ground as well.
Backs off again and thrashes that one. And that's clear. Graham Woods headed it off. There's the 6th one. That must be an incredible bat he's got.
Because it happened with that bat, but well, it was a little bit different. People could focus on it, you know, Excalibur, great bat. But then again, it probably worked against it, because anybody see an Excalibur bat in the shop, you know, unless they could hit the ball out of sight, they wouldn't buy it. So then, you know, it makes you wonder.
He's enjoying this, 38 runs in 13 balls. He's scoring at the rate of 3 runs per delivery.
I know people expected to love me. They wanted me to perform miracles, the sort of thing, every time I went out to bat, or every time the team got in a bad position. I was going to come out and fix it with a whirlwind 50 or 60 or something. But I knew myself that I couldn't do that. So it didn't really worry me. I knew what people wanted, but I knew that I couldn't do it. I couldn't perform that way. And so it really didn't put any pressure on me. But when I did hit them out of the park, right, the people loved it. But when you have a look at it, take it into context, I mean, I was just a Thailand batsman that could now and then score some runs.
The Cairns legend was built on his quick reflexes, his ability to see the ball. But in 1985, during a match against Pakistan in Dunedin, one got through.
Oh, and Lance Cairns has been hit very hard indeed on the head. He tried to duck out of the way of it. Akram dug it in short. Cairns not wearing a helmet. You heard the ball hitting Lance Cairns.
I'm glad it didn't happen earlier in my career, because I mean, it does give you a fright, and you do lose confidence after it.
Akram fired it in short. Lance Cairns turned away, and it struck him right on the back of the head. As I say, a direct hit.
I still play a bit of cricket, and I'm not really comfortable against quick bowling. And any short stuff, you know, I'm running away sort of thing. So it's a thing that it has got its throwbacks.
Today, the stands are as close as Lance Cairns gets to big-time action. This was a special occasion, his return to the Melbourne cricket ground during New Zealand's recent World Cup series. But while the 80s marked a high point in the Cairns cricketing career, his personal life at the time was going through some lows: a marriage breakup, a sour business venture, and the death of a child.
To me, that's life. That's a thing that it happens. It's no good crying about it. It's no good sitting down and say, oh, if I had done something different, could it have changed? Because you're experiencing nothing then. And if things happen in life that happen, you can't change it. You have to put up with it and just go on, you know, and look for another experience, do something else.
But the Cairns' optimistic philosophy hides a deep pain felt over the sudden death of his infant son.
For a period of time, it's pretty tough. I mean, there's the thing with a new marriage, we'd planned to have a child, and when it happened, and then we lost him, it's knocked you a bit, quite a bit. And it was at the time that I just had a book put on the market. I just started off on a promotional tour around the country, and the first day of the promotional tour, he died, cot death, and it's one of those things that, you know, you just crack up.
Time and the birth of another child have helped heal the grief. But today, Lance Cairns is facing another problem, an increasing deafness. It's something that's affected him since his late teens, and during his cricketing days, caused all sorts of problems.
I wasn't comfortable in company, and mainly because of the fact that I couldn't pick up a lot of what was being said. And you try and sort of stay on the fringe of it and try not to be included in conversation and all that sort of stuff. And when somebody starts talking to you, you don't pick up what they're saying, that sort of stuff. And, you know, you can make a bit of a jar of yourself. And so I'd rather sort of keep out of it stay in my room and watch TV, which I couldn't hear anyway. So.
Now living in Poverty Bay, Cairns is carving himself a new cricketing career, that of selector for Northern Districts. The family home is a reflection of the man himself. There's little evidence of his cricketing exploits, of his contribution to the sport in New Zealand.
If I've got somebody coming into my house, I don't want to sort of put it onto them that, right, this is what I've done, this is where I've been, what I've achieved, and to sort of get people to say, oh, you go through all this and all that, and all you talk about is yourself. And I'm not really a person that can say, right, this is what I've done, this is where I've been. And I'd rather have, say, like, the odd thing I've got here is you know, from some achievement that the team have done. But basically, I'd rather shy away from that side of things and just, you know, people just take me for what I am.
It's always been an obtainable thing for us to dream of being an All Black. It's never really been obtainable in cricket, and Lance provided that. He provided the man from the country, never being coached, I can play Test cricket and I can play it damn well. And he did that, and it's a dream for all kids to be like Lance Cairns.
He's got hold of it, it's a big one. He's got it again, it's got it.
He's still going at it, and that's an enormous hit. It's into the stands again. He's got hold of it and lofted it over the fine leg fence. Backs off again and thrashes that one. And that's clear. Graham Woods hit it mid off. There's the sixth one.
I felt I was lucky to be able to play with those guys and against those guys at the very best level.